Welcome back, Dolph fans. Who is the most disappointing of this mini camp off season so far? I think a lot of people are going to be surprised about what I have to say and who I choose. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. So the most disappointing, I think, would be Kenneth Grant. Honestly, when we talk about Kenneth Grant, there's a couple things that I want to preface, and we'll get into the first thing, and then we'll get into the latter thing. First off, we have to understand that they're rookies. So, when it comes to minicamp, I personally wasn't hearing a whole bunch about Kenneth Grant. Really wasn't hearing a whole crazy amount. But, it is minicamp. There are certain players that maybe turn it on more so during the game than they do during practice. We're so used to Christian Wilkins just talking the whole entire time that maybe Kenneth Grant is a little different. But so far, honestly, it's been a little disappointing when it comes to Kenneth Grant, how he, we all are expecting a lot from him. And of course, it's just, him getting on the team for the first time and, he's trying to get acclimated. But out of all of the rookies, I would say, really, yeah, out of all the rookies, Kenneth Grant was probably the one that nobody really spoke about. Jonah looked really pretty good, against, the pass rush, and Ollie Gordon looked good. Dante Trader had a pick six. He looked pretty all right. Jason Marshall had, a decent outing when it came time, and the only person that we really didn't hear much about was Kenneth Grant. And I want to preface this after saying that, because obviously I think we're all a little disappointed. Maybe, we don't know yet. We don't know what he could be. But I think I want to start off with saying this before we get into, the whole training camp, and I think I discussed it as well, and why I'm still very hyped on him is he's not, I think, when it comes to a first-round pick, a lot of people want them to be, just right off the bat studs. And I think it's not going to be the case with Kenneth Grant. Here's what I think is going to happen. This first year, he's going to be the guy that just clogs up the middle. That's really what we need him for. We don't really need him to get sacks. If he gets one or two sacks this year, I'm okay with it. But we don't really need that many sacks from him. We have a bunch of players that's going to be their job. Chop the outside linebackers. That's going to be their job this coming season. I don't think Kenneth Grant needs to get sacks. But what I think needs to happen, it's something very small, but if he can do this on a consistent basis, I think he will have lived up to his rookie expectations, is just pushing the pocket every single time he's on the field. All I need him to do is take up two defenders and push the pocket back. Because one of the problems that we've had for, I would say since, Bradley Chubb was pretty good, but since really Cameron Wake and that type of defensive front that we had, haven't really had that type of defensive line that pushes the offensive line backwards so that the quarterback has to move and then having the pocket shrink on him. It's kind of similar to, if you really, people like to discuss this, but if you look at Tua, look at his pocket. It's like every single time it literally is shrinking around him where he has to move every single time after 2 seconds. We haven't really had that for a while. We've had a couple of decent pass rushers, and, with the Brian Flores era, we had, send 9 people on a blitz. What we haven't had is what the Green Bay Packers have, what the Baltimore Ravens have, what's another good team? Kind of similar, I guess the Buffalo Bills could be another one as well. That type of where it's not one side's collapsing, it's not the other side's collapsing, it's not just one guy's pushing through the middle. It's the whole entire line is collapsing on the quarterback, forcing them to get the ball out quick. And this is why those teams have a lot of turnovers, is because they force that pocket to shrink on them, and it makes them have to find someone or just get the ball out, or they take the sack. Usually when you just have one side of the line being pushed in, the quarterback usually rolls out, or somebody can roll to the left or to the right. But the good teams, they have a complete front that shrinks the pocket, which gives the quarterback only a few seconds to throw the ball. That's all I need him to do. I don't need him to get sacks. Zach Sealer is going to get sacks this year. I don't need him to do any of that. All I need him to do, take up two defenders and push them back. That's all that he needs to do coming into the season, and that will be a win for me. Now, of course, if he gets sacks, hooray, 100%, that's awesome. But all I really need Kenneth Grant for right now as a rookie is just push the pocket back. That's all that you need to do. Be aggressive, push the pocket back, take up space. That's literally the only thing, because someone big like that, you're going to have to send double teams that way. And that's all I need him to take up. Just take those double teams, push them back a little bit, let our pass rushers get after the quarterback, because that's going to be really where the success rate is one-on-one. That's kind of the whole point of Anthony Weaver's defense. When you look at what he wants to do, he doesn't want to blitz a lot. He wants to send blitzes sometimes, and we actually sent way more blitzes last year just because we didn't have any pass rush. We just couldn't get to the quarterback. But what he wants to do is he wants to really only send 4, sometimes 5, and just have them get to the quarterback. So that's why I want Kenneth Grant to not, I mean, like I said, if he becomes a guy that gets, 10 sacks a year, that's awesome, But I'm not expecting that. And I think a lot of people have to temper their expectations when it comes to him, in that I don't think he's going to start, the first couple years getting crazy sack numbers like, Christian Wilkins was. Maybe. But what I need him to do this first year is just take up space. That's all he needs to do. He's 320 pounds. Just eat up 2 defenders. Let the pass rushers do their work, because that's really what's going to be the success of this team. Letting Jalen Phillips chop and Bradley Chubb eat. And Zach Sealer's going to do that too. He's a good, be a good Batman, or not Batman, be a good Robin this coming season. And eventually he'll be Batman, 2-3 years down the road, he'll be the guy. But right now, just be Robin to Batman Sealer. Just eat up space so that Zach Sealer can get to the quarterback and that the other outside linebackers can get to the quarterback. And then we will be successful. That's all we really need him to do. So is he disappointing so far out of the offseason program? Yeah, but it's because we look at numbers. We look at numbers, we look at, crazy plays. And the only way for him to really make a crazy play is to get a sack, and or stop a run for a loss, which I'll expect a lot of that from him this year. I'm going to expect him to get down and stop runs. That's what I truly expect from him. But being disappointed, yeah, I mean, he's not going to show out. I don't think he has I think he needs a couple more years to get to that point where he becomes an all-around defensive nose tackle, or defensive tackle, defensive end that can eat up space and also get past it and get to the quarterback. But I do expect that to happen in like 2-3 years, because his athletic ability for someone that size is off the charts, So again, is he disappointing so far? Sure, he hasn't really done much. Like, if you really consider it, you've heard about every single rookie. Even Jonah has kind of stepped up and done his thing, which Jonah doesn't need to do a whole bunch either. He just needs to stop people from, he needs to be good enough to be on the field and stop, defensive tackles and ends. But, have we heard a lot about Kenneth Grant? No. But also, I think he doesn't need to do what everybody's expecting him to do, which, people are expecting him to get like 10 sacks in the season. Doesn't need to do that. He just needs to take up that amount of space that he needs to take up, be the Robin to Batman Sealer, and let the other dogs eat. That's all that we really need him for. And then in the future, a year from now or 2 years from now, then you can be that guy. But that's all he needs to do. So is he disappointing? Sure. But again, temper your expectations for him. If he does that, I think he's going to be fine. And I think more and more into training camp, he's going to get the edge about him. He's going to get the philosophy behind Weaver's system. And he's going to become a very dangerous player. I think he's going to be fantastic this year. And I'm very excited. So, yes, temper your expectations. Was he a little disappointing? Sure. But he will get better. I promise that. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Kenneth Grant. If you've heard about different things, if you have a different disappointing player in this offseason so far. And remember to like and subscribe. As always, guys, fins up, baby. Love you all. Peace.